going to go ahead and get started. All right, good evening. Welcome to the Champaign Public Library. My name is Lauren Gramley. I'm the business specialist here at the library. So happy to have you here this Tuesday evening for the fundamentals of sales, building relationships and tracking sales for success. And I recognize definitely some of your faces, but for those of you who are new here to the library or to business workshops, here at the library, we have a lot of great business services here. You can do one-on-one consultations with me, the business specialist. We have a lot of great databases here that I can help you use. We also have a lot of great workshops here with local experts, like tonight's presenter, Danielle Hendricks. So I'm going to go ahead and give you a little introduction to Danielle. Danielle Hendricks is a passionate and results-driven professional with a diverse background. She is a proud graduate of the University of Illinois, where she took an unusual path to study recreation management and animal sciences. Multi-passionate and curious are two words that describe Danielle. She is deeply committed to exploring and excelling in various areas driven by continuous learning and growth. Currently serving as the Director of Business Development at Pixo, a leading woman-owned software consultancy, Danielle leverages her strategic thinking and leadership abilities to drive business growth and forge meaningful client relationships. She loves where innovation and creativity intersect to solve complex problems. I'd like to welcome to the stage Danielle Hendricks.
Thank you. Appreciate it. All right, thank you everybody for being here. Going on a sales journey, that's quite the yes that you said to come here today, so I appreciate that. Just go through some of these real quick because that was a great intro, Lauren. Thank you. I'm excited to be here. And yes, I am the Director of Sales and Marketing for Pixo, a tech company in Urbana. And I don't know if many people have heard of them before, but we've been around for over 25 years, which I love that there's like gems in this town of companies like Pixo and other ones that I've worked for in the past that not a ton of people know about. So I love spreading the word about that. But I do have a long history in sales. I actually started out in hospitality. I worked for the Hilton Garden Inn. If anybody has ever been to that hotel at any point for numerous events. I started there when they opened the doors as the Hilton Garden Inn, and that's really where my sales career kicked off. And I didn't know that I was going to be in sales. But I'll get more into that in a little bit. I just wanted to briefly go through what we're going to talk about tonight and just let you know I could talk for way longer than an hour, so my hope is to actually get through these, but bear with me as I stick with the time frame today to talk about these topics. When Lauren and I talked about doing this workshop, I just started jotting down some things that have been threads throughout my sales career that I thought would be really impactful because there's a lot of ways to do sales. There's a lot of things out there that tell you how to do sales. But I've kind of picked up on different things that mean different things to me throughout my journey, and I wanted to share those areas with you today. Also, I really prefer interaction and conversation, so if you have questions at all, please interrupt me. I really don't love the presentation mode very much because it just takes away from conversation. So, all right. So first up, I'm curious, since you're here today, who grew up thinking, I'm going to be a salesperson? Anybody? Is that what your dream was growing up? Yes?
A Girl Scout who grew up saying sales really, are the children present?
One, but he's got your phone on.
Okay. Sales sucks, man. If I have to sell one more box of Girl Scout cookies, I'm going to heave.
Exactly. That's pretty normal. And who maybe thought about, like, there's a degree in sales I want to go after once they, got a little bit older? No. Yeah, me neither. As you saw, I went to the University of Illinois in something completely different. I was going to have a horse camp for kids. That's what I was going to do. But after I graduated and needed a job, what jobs were open? Sales jobs. So who needs sales? Well, I did at that point, that's for sure. But just like that comment there, perception. There's a perception about sales. I did not want to go into sales. My own mother, actually, I called her, this happens frequently, but I called her the other day. She was like, oh my gosh, I thought I was going to be another salesperson when my phone rang, so I did not want to answer the phone. Oh, thank God it was you. It's like, but I am a salesperson. because what is that perception? So I do want to do a little activity with you, and there is a QR code here that will hopefully send you to just a little survey. And for perception, sales starts with the letter S. So I'm going to say, what adjectives can we think of that relate to sales, salespeople, that start with the letter S? These are totally anonymous. And once you start submitting, I should be able to put this screen up. You can submit as many as you want. And of course, I need to send it over here so that you see what you all are saying on this wonderful word cloud. I've seen these before: smooth, suspicious, slick, shifty, ooh, strategic, I like that one. Schmarmy, that was one, yep, Slimy, savvy, savage. Ooh, I kind of like that. Okay. Thank you for participating in my wonderful little survey. Let's see if I can get this out of the way now so you can see this again. I work for a tech company, but you know, doing tech and talking about tech is fine, but trying to do a PowerPoint presentation is not. So these are the words that I have come up with after many years of being in sales. I had to really think about these words because they are not the first words that came to mind. The ones that you all had absolutely were. So I'm hoping to change perception not only for myself, but maybe for you all, that sales isn't all negative. There is a need. I did a lot of research as I was trying to put together the need part of my presentation because I know there's a need. I've been in sales for over 18 years now. 1 in 8 jobs in the US are full-time sales positions. Now, there are different numbers when you look it up on the internet because obviously we have a lot of information at our fingertips, but there was a group that did a few studies on this. They do specialize in sales training, but 1 in 8 is what they came up with. And that honestly didn't really surprise me, but 1 in 8 people have something to do with the sales cycle in companies, and I just find that fascinating. And I really believe that the reason there's that many is because not companies that need salespeople, customers need salespeople. It's hard to buy. It's hard to buy when you don't know all the information for something and you don't have that information at your fingertips. Yes, we do have the internet. We can Google a lot of things, but humans are also impatient. And they want to be able to cut to the chase, get the answers that they want from the experts who know what they're trying to buy. So I was thinking about this 1 in 8 jobs that are in sales, so I just wanted to share some sales titles. So there's a lot of different things salespeople are called these days. Now my role is now a business development role, which includes sales and marketing, but sometimes people use words like business development or account manager because sales has had such a bad rep. But there's a lot of focuses for these different roles in companies. Some people on this list are inbound sales. And for me, that means I am working at a company where people come to me, they call me, come into my place of business, and they're a customer. Think about when you're ready to buy a cell phone and you go to the AT&T store and you talk to that person. The person there is an inbound sales representative. You are going to them and saying, I need your help. For my position, what I do, there's not a lot of people coming into my office saying, I need a new website, I need new software. How do I get out and go find those people and know that there's a good fit for our company to help their company? So I work more in an outbound sales capacity. There are people on this list that focus mainly on sales data, and I'll get into that later as well, but there's a lot of data that can be captured when it comes to sales. There's people that focus on strategy, just the strategy part. There are people that focus on new business, people that focus on past business. Like in this list, there's just many different avenues. So I think that sales, even though it's a big category, has a lot of nuance and a lot of different jobs you can do within the sales career. And I was also thinking about how big a sales team is. How big is a sales team for any one company? And the answer is it depends. It's also my favorite answer to a lot of questions that I get asked in sales is it depends. But how many people are on a sales team really depends on how big the company is, what their size is, what their revenue is, what their need is. It could be a business owner who wears multiple hats and one of them happens to be sales. So they are a part of a role. Or the biggest sales team that there is that I could find when I was searching this is a company called Salesforce. They have sales in their title. They have over 2,000 sales representatives. It's a huge team of salespeople. So with that many jobs, you know there's a need. So with that need, I think about authenticity. How do you make sales genuine? I think personally what's worked for me is being myself. I use the word weird a lot, and I actually love the word weird, but as Lauren was mentioning, I have an unconventional path. I use that when I talk to people. I love the passion that I have about many different things. Multi-passionate was in my bio, because I just see excitement in so many different things. And I like to use my own excitement to get me excited about the work I'm doing. And I'd really like to do an exercise, so I'm not sure if you all are up for it. Because of sales, right? You gotta talk to people. So I'd love for you to get into little groups, and we're gonna do a quick exercise to show a little bit about authenticity. So how about you three over here, you three over here? Can you join those two? And it's groups of three. I know, sales does this role play thing a lot, sorry. But I really love this exercise. I'm not gonna spend a lot of time. I need one person in your group to say, I'll be the salesperson. Okay, and I'm gonna go for the sales role that's the most stereotypical. You're selling a car. Okay, one person, you're gonna be the main person buying that car, and I want you to talk about buying the car of your dreams with the salesperson. And I'm gonna give you 1 minute to talk about that. Go ahead.
I decide, generally if I sign the role for the other person, then, okay, so I'm buying the car.
Yeah, I'm looking for a car with
Buy cars. Tell me what your dream car is. Well, it's, I really,
all my
really like
family.
those cars that are almost illegal to drive, like 1957 Roy's. But at the same time, I really want to retrofit it with an electric, like being electric so that, you know, you're not gonna because you have gas mileage. But it really needs to have, it needs to be like fully chargeable. But it needs to be able, this whole thing, I can't go 3 hours to try to do all of it. I really, really need, I mean, I'm driving cross country all the time. I mean, I'm talking, I'm driving to Michigan for Thanksgiving, but then I have to get back to North Carolina. But I'm going to Springfield before I go to North Carolina. I put 30,000 miles a year on my car. So it has to, I can't do this charging everything. So I really need to go, I needed to go maybe 2 hours just for the charger. Am I missing anything? Yeah. So should we get the pulse?
Okay, all right, let's pause this conversation. We're gonna switch roles. And this time, the salesperson is gonna be buying a car, but the person that was buying a car and the third wheel that's in your team are actually just gonna be really great friends. So the salesperson, now you're buying a car. Talk to your best friends about buying your next car.
Was I a salesperson for a car? Is that my background stuff?
It can be.
It's almost like saying, "Oh, the same thing as on your car."
Bye-bye. So, whenever I go to a little car and I look, you know I wanna get in the car, right?
Yeah.
Smiley one, it's just like, I really need to get one, but every time I go in there, I like. Hey, guys, I'm not sure that I have all of it.
Had and loved my Super Forester for years and years and years, and it's, I mean, they last forever, and now I'm like, I'm gonna have to look for them. Really hard, and just not sure it's like,
Yeah, my friend just
also
bought
this part of
one.
me doesn't want a car, but it was not the responsibility, it's just take that transition, but I like it.
But it's gonna be.
But my last car was like the most.
Thought about that?
And you know, some of them are boxes, I want.
Okay. Thank you all for participating. I'm just going to say one vibe that I heard, especially from this crew over here, was a lot more relaxed conversation happening. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Was there a difference from the first conversation you had when you were selling as a salesperson versus when you were talking to your best friends about buying a car? What was the biggest thing that you saw that was different?
Less pressure, maybe?
Less pressure?
More emphasis on the questions and less and more uncertainty. When she said, "Tell me about your dream car," it's like here's my list, and she's talking more about the real world. I'm not sure about my choices.
That right there is how to actually do sales. You be their best friend. You ask the questions. You open the door. There is uncertainty. They're not buying a car from you. There shouldn't be pressure. If it's not a right fit, it's not a right fit. It's okay. Where a lot of things that I have heard about being in the sales career my whole life is you have to be able to sell ice to an Eskimo. I really don't believe that. Unless they need it, I'm not going to sell that to them. And hopefully being authentic with how you do it, how you ask questions, and how you stay curious, to me is the foundation of being good at sales. So thank you for participating. I appreciate that. Yeah, good question?
We're gonna cover this, but I was wondering, how do you kind of, like, what are the questions that you ask to kind of guide the conversation to figure out if it's a fit, so that you can kind of like get to that point of like, yeah, this is a mutual fit, or like, no, that's not what this is gonna be.
I don't cover those specifically, but I'm happy to talk a little bit about that. There is a framework that I've used in the past, which I'm happy to share afterwards if you're interested, but there is a set of questions that Sandler Sales System calls the pain funnel, and it covers about any generic conversation you could have and gets you to that point.
Okay.
So you can start with something very generic like that. My favorite question to ask anybody when they're, oh, I might have a project, tell me more. You want them to tell you more. You don't want to lead them into, this is exactly what you should be buying from me. You want to really understand them. And I will get more into that.
Okay.
But there are certainly questions based on what you're selling that I would recommend as door openers for further conversation. But tell me more is my favorite, my absolute favorite.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So where can you be you and be authentic? And unfortunately, my screenshot from earlier is not showing on here, so I apologize. But you can look me up on LinkedIn later and find them. I really feel like you can be yourself, even as a salesperson, on social media. And you don't have to use social media, but there is a lot of people that are on social media that will see that and see who you are as a person, and not just as a sales representative. I try to commit LinkedIn posting once a week. I've been a little behind recently, so don't look me up quite yet. I will post after this. But I try to mix in my real life events as well as professional events, what I'm curious about, things I've learned. It is not just me trying to sell you on my LinkedIn. It's really about me. So if you can commit to doing something that you're curious about, something that relates to your job on a regular basis, you can use a platform like this to be your authentic self. The other place you can be your authentic self is by being involved in groups. What kind of groups or people motivate you? What excites you? During the pandemic, for example, there was not a lot of people meeting in person. And obviously there was a lot of reasons for not meeting in person, but people were missing that and craving that. So I started gathering with a group every month at a coffee shop. If they were comfortable, if everybody felt healthy, we could go and we could just have coffee and network with each other. What is going on in real life with you? See people face to face, and that just brought a whole new energy. And it was really exciting to do that. The other space that I've been able to grow a group with is now that I work for a tech company and I have a background in agriculture. There was not a community on LinkedIn for women that worked in agriculture and technology, ag tech. I love both of those things. And it's a rare thing when I go into a room and it's full of women that I get to work with. There's a lot of times I walk into the room and there's a whole bunch of males and I'm the only female. So I knew that there was people out there like me that were feeling like they were the only females that worked in this space. So I created, with 2 other women, this group on LinkedIn. We have now over 300 members that have joined because the space exists and we're able to be there. And I love to share with these other women and support them, but then they can also support me. If I have something like this, they can pump me up to get ready for tonight and do a public speaking engagement. Another place that you can be you is with whatever your personal touch is on. This is a gift that I was giving away at an event. The 2 women that I talked about doing the LinkedIn group with, they actually wrote 2 of the books that I have in my giveaway. So I was really excited because I love to read and I wanted to do a giveaway. And I thought, well, I really, really enjoy these books and these women. I want to give away these books because it means something to me. And when people ask me about it, I could talk about the author, I could talk about the book and why I wanted to give this away. Now, my other bizarre thing is that I crocheted the corn in that gift as well, because that's another hobby of mine. I like to crochet, and it was an ag conference, so it was really fun. And the last place, just talking about where you can be you, I do have a framework coming soon about how you can talk about your value proposition, but how you talk about the work you do, you can add your own spin on it. It's gonna change, it's gonna evolve. For example, I will say, Pixo creates websites, apps, and software that help address unique business challenges. That's the thing that I say, right? But I recently went to a conference and I really love telling people, we're the nerds you need when you're ready to update your technology. Because I think nerd is an endearing thing. I love that, but it's how I wanted to talk about it with the group that I was talking to. So, talking about finding customers, finding clients. This is a huge question, right? Where are they? Where are the clients? Where are the customers? My biggest question when I did start working at Pixo was who our clients are. So first, understanding who are you serving? I needed to know who those people were so that I could help them. How does Pixo, as a software company, help our customers? And understanding them, that makes a world of difference. If there is not a need or a value, like I was saying before, I'm not going to walk through your front door. I might ask you if there's a need, but I need to have that connection there that I know that I can help you with something in your business. So I thought about, once I figured who our clients were, what was important to them, and where were they. I like to attend conferences, and let me tell you, there is an association and a conference for just about every career you can possibly think of. I mentioned that I worked at the Hilton Garden Inn when I first started in the sales world. We did a lot of event planning. There was a lot of conferences that came in. There is an association, probably more than one, just for event meeting planners. So guess where I started showing up? I showed up at their conferences as a vendor, as somebody they could go to as a trusted source to do the conferences they wanted to do. So there's always a way to get in front of those people to let them know that you are available to them. So then I wanted to share this framework here about the value proposition. As I was mentioning before, what I was talking about with Pixo, this is who we are and what we do. The value proposition that I had learned many years ago was really talking about typically people like you, whoever your client is, work with people like me, my company, to help you do these things. And this one that I wrote, it's a company called Bedloft. They're also here in town. I was a member of that team for a while. They work with housing executives at every university across the country. So what I wrote for that was that typically housing executives like yourself partner with us to fill a gap in service to their clients, add money to a decreasing budget, and regain control over the chaos of move-in day. Because they were all about housing, they were all about helping the students, and everything that we sold, a portion of it went back to the housing budget so that they could have more money next year. But I really love talking about why it's valuable to them. It's not about all the great things I can do, it's about how I can help them. And that's what your customers are going to want to know. Okay, this is where I really geek out because I love data. I love the numbers. So when I look at data and when I track data about what's happening in the sales world, I will look at things like, what have I won? What projects have come through and we have done successfully? Why did they pick us? How did I stand out? Like, how did Pixo stand out? How did the company I'm working for stand out? What are our total number of wins for the year? Also important, what did you lose? Why didn't they pick you? And what are the total number of projects that you lost? And that to me speaks to, is there something I need to change, or is that just they weren't the right fit? But there's also, that work is out there. So the work we're doing is valuable. We may have lost the job, but they needed somebody like us. I look at dollars, what was won, what was lost, the average sale amount, how long it is to close a deal. And how long it is to close a deal for me helps me know my own sales cycle. So I work a lot with universities in my past role in this job, and I know procurement, even if we say yes, takes at least 30 days before we will have that project start because of all the stuff that they have to go through on their end. So they say yes, I know I'm gonna have 30 days before the project starts. It just helps me with planning and what reality is. I'm really excited we won this work, but we're not gonna start it for 30 days. Looking at data also helps me know when I need to push more and go find more people and have more fun conversations. It tells me when I need to panic a little bit, like, okay, something's not right here. What is wrong? It tells me how I can improve a future sale. Do I need to relook at how we budget things? Do I need to relook at how we word our proposals? So data tells me a lot of things. Busy seasons, buying seasons, slow seasons. And you can take anything in your own company and start using a spreadsheet to track these. You can start very basic, but I am a CRM freak. I love CRMs, customer relationship management tools. I put a few examples on here. I'm gonna get on a soapbox. Most salespeople actually do not like CRMs. They do not like tracking their data. They think people are micromanaging them because of all the stuff you put in there. They don't like the extra step of having to add somebody's favorite book or favorite author to their profile, because what does that really matter at the end of the day? They don't want to log every phone call, log every email. But let me tell you, this is my brain, because there's not enough space in here. for me to remember all those details. I would like to think there is, but there is not. But this is the tool that I use every day, besides my email, all the time. Like, I email people a lot. Yes, you call people, but I have this screen open every time. It gives me reminders. If we shouldn't talk again for a year, how am I going to remember that if I don't put a reminder in? And what did we talk about a year ago that I'm going to be reminding you about? There's just so many little things to help me stay on track and on top of what I do on a day-to-day basis. I personally have switched 2 companies now from outdated CRMs to new CRM systems, which is a big task in itself, because to get a CRM to work in a way that works well for your company, you have to really understand what's important to you. You have to set it up so that you get the good information in that gives you the good information out. Just like any technology, which this was before I worked for Pixo, any technology, good information in is good information out. But if you put junk information in, you're not going to get anything that tells you how to move forward. I recently, with Pixo, we moved from a different CRM into HubSpot. And HubSpot's actually a really good company to also follow on a blog. I have them on my resources page later. They have a lot of good information they put out. They have email templates that you could use and a lot of different suggestions for being effective in the sales space. So I really like their product. I really like what they do. I'm not a spokesperson for them at all. But they do a lot of integration work that really helps me do my job more efficiently without dropping balls, because believe me, I'm always juggling quite a few things at one time. And then, of course, I had to throw in Michael Scott. You do miss 100% of the shots you don't take. I just had one of my colleagues remind me of this because going after work, the worst thing that can happen is somebody could say no. But if you don't ask, they're not going to say anything, and you'll never know. So we have projects that might be completely out of our typical wheelhouse, and most people are like, is there a reason we should go after this? What if they say yes? What if they say yes and we can learn something new and we can help them in different ways? So I love that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, because it just reminds me that you got to take a chance, especially in the sales world. I wanted to show a couple of examples of some of the numbers that I like to look at when I'm looking at the data, what I like to reverse math a lot. So let's just say you have a goal to have $1 million in signed contracts. So you want to track that. You want to know how far you're on that progress. If that's your yearly goal, where are you at compared to the year in accordance to that $1 million goal? Now, if you've done your data and you've run the numbers and you know your average contract size is $10,000. Well, that's really helpful to know, because that leads to me knowing I need to win 100 contracts to get to $1 million, at least, right? Now it's an average, so you could have ones that are higher or lower, but you know what your goal is. Well, that's great to know that you want to win 100 contracts, but what does it take to actually win those 100 contracts? How many people do you have to talk to and they say no for somebody to say yes? So I was just doing some more math. If you decide and you've seen your past data and you know you have a 35% win ratio. And for a lot of companies, that's a decent number. I would love it to be way higher. 100% win ratio would be great. And then you know everybody I talk to is going to say yes. But they won't, so we have to be realistic. So 35% win ratio. To get 100 projects won, you have to propose on 285 projects. And if I break that down per week, so it's a little bit more manageable, 5.5 new projects per week is your goal. And then you have to know, is that manageable? Is that doable? Is that one salesperson? Can one salesperson do that? Or is this now when you need to have 2 salespeople, 3 salespeople, 10 salespeople to make sure that you're meeting the goals of your company? This is a guide, obviously. This is fake numbers, but test it out on what you know is true for your own company. And then there's even deeper numbers that get into this. So there's the, well, how did I even know to talk to 285 people? How many people did I have to email? How many times did I have to email them? How many phone calls did I have to make? How many events did I have to go to? There's a lot of things that lead up to even having 285 projects to talk to. And what do those numbers look like? There's some fuzzy math with that people have done over the years that I do try to track for my own company, but if you talk to any marketing or sales expert, they will have some numbers you can try. But once you start tracking it for yourself, you'll know what your numbers are. You might have a much higher or much lower success rate than the average number that's out there. Okay, so really to wrap things up is my relationship building piece, which is just everything that I've said in this presentation on repeat. What you're doing in step one is building trust, but then you need to stay top of mind with your clients and being where they're at, social media posting or being in their lives, knowing what they're doing in their lives, and being genuine in that approach really helps your relationship building. When you're being a friend to somebody and asking them about how they want to sell or how they want to buy a car instead of just trying to sell them the car, that helps build relationships. I also love following what's happening in my clients' world, so in the industry that I'm in. So what is happening in the world of agriculture right now that I need to be aware of to lend support to my friends who are now worried about what is going to happen with the economy or what's going to happen with crop prices or whatever the next thing is in their lives, so that I don't just walk in and think that everything is wonderful and rosy. I know what's really going on in their worlds. So I do want to share a few different resources. I have books, blogs, podcasts, fun stuff, I think, that I have used as resources over the years that I think are really impactful. But I will also caveat this with, you have to pick the things that really make sense and resonate with you. It goes right back to authenticity. If somebody tells you that you need to sell a certain way and it doesn't feel right to you, you don't have to use that tactic. It does not have to infiltrate who you are and change who you are to be in a sales career. I really enjoyed The Sell is Human by Danielle H. Pink and Sales EQ by Jeb Blunt. Jeb Blunt also does podcasts. I think it's called Sales Gravy, but it's a really good one to listen to as well. I mentioned earlier the Sandler sales training. Now this is an educational course that I took many years ago, and I was really hesitant to take a sales course because I mentioned before, like, who goes to school to get a degree in sales, and it wasn't me. And I felt like I always did things very differently. I didn't do the typical sales spiel. I wasn't the first S group that you all put on the board, and I didn't want to be that. And I was really worried that a Sandler sales system, it's just like, all S's, it's going to be terrible. I really enjoyed it, and I came away with a lot of different things that I could use, one of them being the framework I shared earlier, another, the tell me more question, and then the whole pain funnel questions that they have. They were really, really good. So I wanted to take the good, and you could leave the bad, anything that you felt didn't fit with you. So I really like that one. I mentioned the HubSpot sales blog earlier too, and then I did bring a book here with me today just to have a visual, but The Challenger Sale is another book that I read that was pretty life-changing for my sales career. It talks about, I believe, 5 different sales personas that you could be, and they really promote a challenger sale persona, which is being knowledgeable about what you do, not just rolling over when people tell you it's not the right fit, but challenging your customer back with good information. Not just challenging them with, you need to buy this thing and badgering them. It's really challenging them back with good information that's thoughtful about what they need to help their business. So I was going to wrap this up with how how sales reminds me of the story of Sisyphus. Rolling a boulder over a hill, the boulder is the sale. You get it over, it's really exciting, and then you start all over again with the next boulder. And it takes a lot of grit, a lot of perseverance. You get told no, probably more than you get told yes, but when that accomplishments happen and then you get to do the next thing, it can be really, really exciting. So that is all I had for today, but I'm happy to answer questions that you all have about sales.
I have 2 questions.
Of course.
So the first one is, how often have you seen that a challenge with sales or a problem with sales, like with the data, is due to an issue with the product, like fundamentally, versus those other things that you mentioned?
Like what you're selling is the problem?
Yeah, like what you're selling, like a product flaw, or doesn't meet just inherently doesn't meet the needs of the customer.
So I think I made a promise to myself that if that ever happened to me at a job, I mean, I speak up. I am not a quiet person when it comes to speaking up within my company. I flag it, and I will tell people what I'm hearing from actual clients, from actual customers. And if there is a need and a want for the company to make a shift and a change, then I can stay and I can help make that change. If it's unethical, we're just gonna push this and you have to sell it, even though I can't lie. I can't lie to somebody and tell them that this product is gonna save their life, this product is gonna make their skin clear, whatever, if that's not reality. Mm-hmm. So I personally wouldn't be able to stay if something didn't meet the value that it was saying it was. That's just a personal thing. I know other people are fine with it, but.
No. I was thinking more like, that's not something like that. But I think that kind of answers my question. Because It sounds like what you're saying is, as long as it does what it says it does, it's just a matter of finding the right customer. Is that correct? Yeah, and I feel like in my role, being directly in connection with clients and talking about their needs, I've been able to come to the operation side of whatever I've been working with and make really good suggestions to improve that. One of those examples was actually working at the Hilton Garden Inn, and we did a lot of weddings. And every time somebody would come to me, they didn't understand their bill. Because we would talk about all the different things that go into planning your menu, what that would be, and then I would show them their bill. And of course, every hotel has a gratuity included or added onto your final bill. But if you've never done it at that scale before, it's like, wait a minute, what is this huge number? This is 19%. It was back in the day. I don't know if it still is. 19% gratuity. I wasn't planning on that. I budgeted this amount. So I heard that so many times, and we came back and we did a whole package deal so that all of that would be included in a price. And so somebody making those decisions and budgeting for a giant day in their life could do that without the sticker shock or the fear later that they wouldn't be able to pay that bill. So I didn't eliminate the fact that we do have a gratuity. I was just able to package it up so that it was easier to digest for the client to understand, and they knew that wasn't hiding the thing. It was, I can plan my budget because there's not this shock factor at the end. So you can make changes. Yes?
So my question is about your last point, and that is just basically staying on top of mind.
Mm-hmm.
So, part one of my question is, how often do you follow up? And part two is, like, what are some of the things that you'll say? Like, for instance, I'm in real estate, and yes, I can say, like, okay, how was the move? Just like basically those questions, like, oh, what updates have you made? But then it's like, okay, I don't want to, in terms of doing it, like, they just moved and that sort of thing. So
Oh, yeah. It's a balance for sure, it depends. Like I said, my favorite answer to everything, it depends. But thinking about what I do now. I don't know that I have like a you have to follow up or you shouldn't follow up or a cadence like that. I get into a rhythm after knowing and understanding the client where I know that I'm offering something of value when I check in with them. So, for example, if there's a client who's really into the history of Abraham Lincoln, and we're in the land of Lincoln, right? And I see that there is a really cool place to go visit, or I just visited somewhere. I'll be like, oh my gosh, I was thinking about you because I went to this museum about Abraham Lincoln, and you really, if you haven't been, you should go. And that isn't invasive. That's not like badgering somebody. It's really genuinely thinking about them because I remember that they liked that. There's things like that you can do, but there's also probably intentional reasons from a sales perspective that you should follow up on as well. Making a sale, if you're in that process and you've had a meeting, I've checked in with a client multiple times in a month just to say, what's the status? What's going on? What's the progress? Can I help? Is there anything I can do? But there are other clients who are like, I'm not going to have an answer for you for a month. So I don't just randomly email them or try to get them on the phone because I know they're probably busy. It's not about me, it's about them. So there's not a traditional cadence, but knowing you need to stay in their world and have a reason to stay in their world so that when they have a chance for real estate to buy their next property, they remember you. Yes.
Question. So for someone who's like new in sales, especially if they're like new to the community or something like that, I know a lot of it is networking and getting to know people. So for the sales newbie, who's like, I gotta find customers, I gotta find clients.
Mm-hmm.
Are there, particular resources? I know you mentioned like trade shows, conferences, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that's not, that's like 3 months down the road.
Right.
Like you're like, I need sales leads like now.
Yep.
So what are some good like maybe resources that anybody who's getting into sales could maybe tap into to kind of, like you hear about cold calling and stuff like that,
Mm-hmm.
that I didn't know, just for anybody getting into sales.
Mm-hmm.
Like what would be some good avenues for them to really maybe start trying to find clients,
Mm-hmm.
I guess.
Yeah. I think understanding your client first and knowing who they are is key. And actually, we have used the library ourselves for once we know exactly what type of company would be a good fit. There's really great lists you can get from here, and then you can literally call those companies and say, hey, I'm new to this role. I'm looking for companies I think like you, and ask them if they can help you. When I started at Pixo, and I still feel like I know barely anything, but when I knew nothing about technology, and Pixo already existed, they already had customers, so I feel like I came in with a little bit of help there. But I went to all of our past and current clients and just said, I really just want to introduce myself, and why did you decide to work with Pixo? I want to hear it directly from customers who picked us and start talking to them and then saying, oh, is there anybody that you would introduce me to since I'm new to this? Like, ask for that help from people. The other thing with networking that you're mentioning, Lauren, there's definitely a lot of local networking events that you can just say yes and go to. There's a lot that happens in this community. We're really good at really good events that have a lot of people at them. And it's awkward, but just know everybody else is there to meet people too. So, hi, I'm Danielle. This is what I do. I'd love to meet you. And people will be receptive to that. It feels really, really weird, but believe me, once you get through a few, it won't feel as bad. But the Chamber of Commerce offers a lot of networking type events. First Coffee. I think they're still doing after hours events, I think monthly. I know COVID changed a lot of things, what people are actually hosting. But even coming to events like this, if you're in a room with people that are interested in the same thing you are, you can have your business card and be like, hey, I just want to introduce myself. What do you do?
I've noticed actually that happening with some people come to the business workshops.
Yeah.
Trade
Yeah.
services and opportunities and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's great.
I randomly attended, a friend of mine wanted to throw a euchre middle of the day, let's remember how to play this party. It was like, okay, sure. I knew just her, and there was like 10 or 12 other people there, it wasn't intended that we were introducing ourselves with our businesses, but she's like, oh, let's go around and introduce ourselves. And everybody did, like as a default, like, oh, this is my name and this is who I work with. It's like, oh, we're doing that. I thought this was just fun. But those are also networking opportunities. And by the end, I was exchanging business cards with people, and it wasn't even really for that intention, but it happens naturally with those as well. I know it's really nice to stay at home on your couch in your pajamas. Believe me, it's a great spot. But if you know something is going on in town, you're like, maybe I'll just go for 20 minutes and see if I can meet anybody and go home after that, whatever the event is in town.
Do you know also, quick question, is there a list or a resource somewhere online to find like trade shows and conferences and stuff like that? Google, like,
I do a lot of Google searching, especially when, like coming into Pixo, they did not go to trade shows. And so me finding out who our clients were, I was like, okay, wait a minute. What are all the ag conferences that I could be a part of? Or higher education, that's our other market we work with. So what, besides the University of Illinois, just coming here and knocking on doors, higher education events exist that I could go to and I could introduce myself and introduce Pixo. And there are so many. You could fill your calendar really fast because there's national events, there's regional events, there's local chapters of a ton of different associations. But until you know who you're wanting to be selling to, it's hard to say, go to this spot to find it. Yeah.
Like, just kind of jumping on what you just said, do you do any kind of like, I don't, it's just because I've been reading on the net stars, you basically show like your ideal client, like who you know, not even, I mean, you can be as specific as you want, but have you tried that strategy? Does that actually work in terms of being like, oh, I want to, like for instance, let's say I want to work with first-time home buyers and being like, okay, so what does that look like? Where are they searching for homes? But I'm just trying to see, like, does that strategy, actually, from your experience, does that actually work?
I think so, 100%. I feel like, so starting at Pixo about 4 years ago, we could do tech for anybody, but we weren't willing to say we specifically do tech for universities and for agriculture. And because of that, for me, as a salesperson, it was really hard for me to say, okay, if we can help anybody, how do I find anybody? That's so hard. But when they started looking at our past clients and it was like, oh, really, like this is where we fit. This is our experience. This is what we do. If you really want to help first-time home buyers, like get into their mindset of what are they questioning? How can you help them? Where do they look for those new homes? How can you help them on their journey? But if you said, I just want to buy want to help anybody that wants to buy a house, I mean, that could be anybody. How do you really narrow your search and be good at helping a specific group of people if you help everybody? It's really hard. So I really think narrowing down who it is and your ideal client helps you be more refined in who you talk to and how you talk about it. You had a question?
Yeah, I'm trying to put theirs together, but basically, I do have to process all of the info you've given us. I was thinking about the book you said, 5 different sales personas, as well as your experience, because there's a lot of people who make choices against their own interests, and I'm in healthcare, so obviously, like, investing in your health is great, right? But
Yeah.
people don't always do it. I sent out a survey to my clients because some people have been dropping off. And these are people who, again, really need my services. So I was just like, maybe I'm not pushing sales enough or saying the right thing or using the right persona. But I don't know, I have a specific little story I don't want to go all into. It's just that some of the people in the survey, the bulk, it was like people talking about their budgets, which I know everyone's concerned about it.
Oh, yeah.
But at the same time, this one client, for example, said it was budget related, and of course I'm maintaining that contact, trying to stay in their mind front.
Yeah.
And then as I'm just conversating like her best friend, using these different sales skills, right?
Yeah.
She's like, and this is someone who comes to me in order to not go to the ER for breathing issues. So literally she waits to the very last. I'm always trying to sell her and be like, look, come more regular. more regularly. And so again, when I touched base with her, I knew that she had answered the survey, it was budget related. And I'm like, is this a failure for me as being a salesperson? But then I find out she spent $6,000 on like hair removal. You know, she's like, oh, I'm paying like $600 a month. Like, so maybe I'll come to you the next time you need to go to the ER. And I kind of feel like maybe I'm at a point with at least this customer where like, I don't know, maybe I should let some people go.
It's okay to let people go.
With the example of, you know, got another rock to push up.
Yeah. There will always be people who question the value of what you're doing. You have to be confident in the fact that you have value, your service, your product has a value. Now, if every customer told you that budget was the issue, you might want to start relooking at your budget. But if you still have clients and they are still paying you, then I wouldn't say it's a you problem with the budget. They have different priorities, and that's okay to part ways. I would say the challenger sale piece of it has helped me a little bit with questioning when people say, oh, it's budget, but you know there's this other side, right? They're willing to spend money, but why aren't they willing to spend money on this?
Doing the ideal client, so I went through a whole sales class with that.
Yeah.
And again, it's like thinking about not only people who really need to focus and or want to focus on their health.
Yeah.
Because obviously she started out really wanting that, but also being within the certain income ratio, homeowners, like just in general, I wrote out my little list. And these were the people that I went after, and again, she falls in that sector, but then I was like, then what am I doing? I know it's not my say, it was her question earlier, it's like, what, is it the product, or is it I'm not being loud enough? Like, what is it that I need to do? So I just wanted to evaluate myself first, and then letting go of people, I think, is also my weakness.
Yeah, I mean, when I gave the example earlier, I had that win ratio at 35%. Like, I've worked for companies where the win ratio has been 5%. I worked at companies where it's been 70%. But it's not necessary. It's about who you're talking to, your messaging, yes, but sometimes your market is just that. Like, your win ratio isn't ever going to be 100%. And for me, being able to clear out the no's gives you more time for people who might say yes. So a no to me, even if somebody says, hey, I don't have the budget for this, it's fine. I will probably still connect with you again and make sure that we wouldn't be a fit in the future as your perception changes about budget and what the value is of health for you at this point in your life. In 6 months, you might have a different outlook. So you could follow up again in 6 months and say, you know, how's that going for you? Do you need my services again? I'm happy to help you again if that's the case.
She already reached out because then I told her I didn't have availability, and she went to the emergency room. So now she's like, I got $1,000 and I could have done it in 100.
And you can tell that story. You can tell that story to future clients. Hey, you know what? You can push this off, but I had a client that did this, and instead of spending the $100 with me, they spent $1,000 in the emergency room. It's up to you, whatever you would want to do, but that's the consequence for the choice they made. Yeah.
Are there any distinctions to keep in mind when selling to individuals versus businesses?
Oh, I mean, there's lots of differences with that. I mostly sold, I guess, business to business, maybe except when I was at the Hilton. I guess be more specific with that. What are you thinking?
I'm not sure. It's like some of the things I've read and prepared, and some of the things you mentioned were specifically you're calling up the businesses and you're talking about selling this and that, and some of them don't always apply directly to an individual.
Sure.
And so it was more as people were asking questions like, oh, I wonder if you've seen anything that's like, oh, well, you know, people are more likely to think in this way, or, you know, avoid this. I don't really know.
I would say there is definitely a thread of emotional buy that's stronger in an individual than it would be in a company. There's more logic applied because of the amount of people making a decision, probably in a company setting, even though at the end of the day, it's all emotional buying, all of it. But an individual person would probably lean more into the emotional buy than they would the logical buy. So even though it makes sense and they should be spending money on their health, they will choose to spend money on something else and not buy your product. So it'll be more of an emotional purchase and probably more of an emotional conversation you would have with an individual versus a business.
I sort of have a question to kind of piggyback off of that, because I also have a direct-to-consumer company. And so, but I think that maybe this question applies to both. So when you're a small business owner, it's kind of, you're doing everything, right? And I think I'm asking you this because I think it's great that you're doing business development, so you kind of, you have the whole thing, like marketing, sales, same thing for a small business owner. So what I'm wondering is, sometimes there's like this thought that, oh, there's all these different things that I could do, and I'll talk direct to consumer right now. So it's like, oh, should I focus on getting followers on Instagram, or should I focus on collecting emails? Emails to me is like more like the CRM that you're talking about. And then maybe the alternative is like, for a B2B business, maybe it's like, do I build the contacts, or do I do social media? Do you think that it should be the priority to focus on like building that more robust kind of like email list, or that CRM? Do you think that should be the priority if you can only really focus on one thing?
I literally just got asked this in my own job, like, because I do both sides, right? Like, I am sales, I'm business development, and it was, if you could focus on one thing, what would it be? And of course, no, I don't want to focus on one thing. So in my head, because I did not do a slide on this, I will just explain. I have everything as like a circle. They all feed each other. So for me, the beginning part is more marketing-y related, where you're creating content and you're creating space to have conversations about what your thing is. What is it you're selling? Those conversations, to me, like sparking those conversations with whatever that is, if it's a social media post, emails, whatever, lead to conversations about actual projects or actual sales. So then that comes into the sales realm, and I'm really excited about that. Those projects that we talk about might end up being contracts. Once we do that work, then we get to brag about that work, and that becomes content. So you always want to be building your network, more and more people in your circle. I think growing your network is where the value is. And then you get to share and brag about all those cool things you're doing on social media, in a newsletter, in any other way that you're talking to your clients, so that they also refer you. That's also a goal, right? They want to talk cool things about what you're doing so that other people will buy from you as well. So there's a lot involved in that, but I always think there's not just a thing, it's all the things when they work together. Does that make sense? And I know I'm saying do all the things, but I can't just say it's one thing. There's no, I hate using like the silver bullet. There's no like magic bean. There's no one thing that's going to make all of your sales come to you. It's working all of these things together that make it happen. You guys have great questions. Yeah.
If I can piggyback on her question now.
Love this.
So about CRMs and small business owners, I am the only person in my business. Can you recommend a CRM that is suitable or appropriate for a single person?
A lot of times I have found there are CRMs that if it's only one or two people, it's the freemium option. And I don't know if they still have it. One that I really loved using was called Insightly. They may have changed all their plans, but that's one I really loved using when I had a small team. I think HubSpot also has an option, but I will just warn you because we use it. When you're free and they start showing you all the bells and whistles it could do, you want all the bells and whistles for any CRM. But I know definitely like for HubSpot, I think they have a freemium option as well. Prior to us switching to HubSpot, we've also worked with Pipedrive, which I've heard good things about, but I've just enjoyed our upgrade to HubSpot. And like I said, you really could use a spreadsheet if it's just you to track the things you want to track and see if it's worth it. But for me, a database will help you pull with reporting. It helps you see trends that you may not be able to see in your own spreadsheet. And then there's the reminder piece of it too, which you can put reminders in your calendar, but if it's if you miss something or it's not connected to that person, you're like, why did I have this reminder to reach out? All of that being tied together just really helps me. So I think there's good options out there for you to try, but sign up for one that does the freemium option for 1 to 2 people. Yeah.
Can I just add to your answer and
Yes,
ask a
absolutely.
question? So I love Notion. Do you use Notion?
Yeah.
Ooh.
You can use it for lots of things, and you can self-build a database. And that was the thing that finally I was able to track potential clients better in. For me, it took me a really long time to figure out a system, which is still a work in progress, frankly. But anyway, that's my, if you have a team, it is a paid thing, but it's not horribly expensive. And then related to the line of conversation we've been having, the thing I've been thinking a lot about, and I'm also a small business owner with like just me doing most of the things.
Yep.
With a little help from a VA, but that's it. Like, what I'm really thinking about is like the art of finding people who are in the right place to buy, and I'll say that I'm a coach and consultant helping people prevent and recover from burnout, and that's something that's really squishy and I found hard to sell. Because you have to find people in the right place. Everybody thinks everyone kind of needs it, but they're not going to do it until they're really ready in a right place. So I don't know if you have any, beyond like, oh, are you at the right trade shows or in the right LinkedIn groups or whatever? How are you finding the people in the right place, or at least closer to
If
the right
you
place,
find
so they don't
that,
just
you
sit?
have a gold mine. Just so you know. If you tell me when you figure that out, because I will say, this is a little part of the magic, in my opinion, and this is why you need to talk to more people than you need sales. Like, you need your network and who you talk to about what you do to be much bigger than what you need to have under contract with you to be good at what you're doing. Because it's a timing thing, and that seems very personal, where even if people are ready, they're going to be a little bit apprehensive to say they're ready, right? They're not going to admit it to themselves, even if deep down they're probably like, I probably need to talk to somebody. But so for me, it's finding how could you make that the least amount of friction for them to say yes to something, to start talking to you. So they may not sign up for, I don't know how long you do like sessions for, like 6 months worth, but could you do, hey, I'll do a first one-on-one session with you, complimentary if this is where you're at, and then we can talk. Or I could do just a couple weeks of time and see if they want to continue. But a lot of times people have just a hard time saying yes to something maybe bigger than what they're thinking. So sometimes it's easier to offer something smaller so it's less friction for somebody to say yes, and then once they see the value in what you're doing, they might say yes to the bigger thing. They still might not, but at least it's just one step closer to them understanding how you can help them.
So I worked at a couple of jobs where I got burned out, and definitely would have been a customer of yours if I had known about that. But I'm thinking that when I was at those companies, I was not the only person feeling that way, and there was often like a mass exodus of employees. And so I'm just wondering if you could look on Glassdoor and kind of find those companies that have a bad culture and, kind of target them.
Or just go to a company and say, I talk about this so you don't lose employees.
Right. Or can you hire me so that you're not losing employees?
Exactly. Employee retention.
Yeah.
See, get creative outside the box. I like that.
Bad idea.
And in your message, I don't know if you already have it, but like just even having part of your sales pitch is also like explaining a little bit of the signs of burnout. Because when I experienced it, I didn't realize it till again I exited a job 6 months later. I was like, that's what was happening to me.
Yeah, awareness is a big thing when it comes to something like what you're doing. And I feel like even with software, there's a lot of people who don't have an understanding of when their company would be ready. So I totally relate to that, where it's got to be a timing thing. They have to value what you're offering. They have to know that it's the right path for them. And there's a lot of things that have to line up. And that, to me, there is some magic with that. So I feel like I just keep plugging away. So that's what I'm telling you as well, that meeting more people, having those conversations, and then thinking outside the box like this of other things you can't do the same thing, you know, and not be insane, right? Isn't that the whole, you do the same thing all the time. It's insanity. You're Sisyphus, you're pushing the boulder over the, it's a little bit related, but you try something a little bit different for pushing that boulder over the hill, and you might see different results there too.
Thank you, that was helpful.
Yeah. You guys are great. What a great group.